Another gorgeous late summer afternoon here in the Sawtooth Wilderness. This time I'm running in the Kailas FUGA EX Pro. Just before I headed over here on this trip, I did catch that this shoe took second place overall over at OCC, losing out on the top spot to none other than Jim Walmsley of Hoka. But second place in the EX Pro model here certainly, I believe, will give this Kailas brand some more recognition across the trail running scene. I did do a combination first impressions video with this model and its more training oriented sibling, the EX3. From the moment I strapped this Pro model on my feet, I knew right away had to take this one out on a longer, more technical and varied mountain run. Certainly right out of the box felt like a contender for a long distance ultra and even potentially 100-mile racing shoe. Go ahead and take a look back at that combo first impressions review there for more detailed analysis on the specs. Just run through them quickly here. 3732 is the stack height, 5 mil drop, super critical beaded TPU foam underfoot. You've also got an X-shaped, quite flexible I might say off the bat, carbon fiber plate embedded within that TPU midsole. Vibram Mega Grip, light base with traction lugs underfoot, and you do have a mix of 4 and 6 millimeter lugs, so quite a sturdy outsole there for traction and also protection. The weight comes in at 10.4 ounces, 294 grams in my US 10 here. That's a very good weight for this type of shoe. Certainly a shoe in consideration for distances such as a 100-miler. I'm gonna try to focus my comparisons a little bit on this run. A couple shoes that I feel like maybe are natural fits, and just based on my recent testing, maybe one or two others. You can see I'm also testing Kailas custom integrated gaiter there. Oh, I'm not integrated, but they do have a 4-point attachment system. So you got a loop that you hook on the laces. There's a tiny little kind of lace loop on the heel and 2 plastic attachment points on the side of the shoe. So pretty solid gaiter loop setup here. That is a great feature, and I do highlight the weight being good because this shoe just feels chock full of features like that. They're not skimping out on, say, a couple of extra durable plastic gaiter attachment points. Also, full coverage rubber. You've got the carbon fiber plate, beaded TPU. The upper, which I will talk about more in depth, it's just a solid, comfortable upper. Not super stripped down in any way, especially around the heel area. Didn't skimp there. Very good lockdown and also comfort again, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I want to start off talking about the carbon fiber plate as I'm winding my way up on the front side of this loop here. It is a forked X-shaped design, and the split up front, also in the rear, it's pretty wide. I think they're probably further apart, especially under the forefoot, than the Tecton X2 or X3. I think that gives it more flexibility. Just seems like a less bouncy and reactive plate. I think in comparison to the Tecton, definitely in comparison to shoes like the Sky 2 or absolutely the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite Trail, just seems like there's a little bit of flex before the shoe kind of snaps off, and not in a overly energetic way. It doesn't want to kind of launch you forward. Another shoe I'm thinking about is the Vective Pro 3. It's more of a, I would say, relaxed, propulsive effect here. I also do feel more ground feel with this shoe under the ball of the foot. Nothing like poking through in a sharp or bad way. It's just, I know I have the Tecton X3 in mind. That shoe's around 40 mil, I think, so a little thicker than this one in the midsole. Also, I think the plates are, closer together, so giving a little bit more plate coverage under the foot there. This shoe gets you a tad closer while still maintaining some flexibility, actually pretty good flexibility, and pretty much, I would say, all the protection you need. The actual stack height is actually probably right in line with the Tecton X2, but again, similar to the X3, I think those plates feel stiffer, and they're again probably closer together. Just feels a little firmer underfoot, a little stiffer. This one, the TPU definitely gives more of a softness underfoot compared to the X2. Maybe similar in cushion feel to the X3, but again, X3 having more foam and more kind of plate protection, so more between your foot and the ground in that shoe. One of the reasons the flexibility of the carbon fiber plates here, and actually the shoe itself, is so apparent is that heel hold is so good. The Tecton X2, notably, I have some trouble securing that heel in that shoe. I have to do some maybe modified lacing around the upper two eyelets, maybe some lock lacing at times to get the heel hold, as secure as I'd want it. And even then, I feel like it's just barely holding in there. Again, I have taken that shoe through several 100-milers, so certainly not to the issue of being unrunnable, but to the point of demonstrating that it's quite a stiff shoe in comparison to this one. This shoe has similar kind of standard padding on the interior of the heel, definitely more in line with the X2, certainly not the minimal set above the X3, and I don't notice any heel slippage at all in this shoe. The heel stays well seated inside this shoe, and it's really no fuss at all. It actually feels like more of a comfort kind of upper as opposed to one of those kind of stripped down super shoe uppers. Again, they kept the weight at 10.4 ounces, so really a good job there at having a heel hold here that honestly I don't even think about, and that's an accomplishment for a carbon fiber plated trail super shoe. The contouring of this shoe underfoot is also excellent. On the inside of the shoe, you don't have a big rounded contour under the arch, but it doesn't feel flat either. I'd say it's kind of in the middle, a little bit of light sculpting under the arch, maintains adaptability of the foot to the ground underneath, and also just a touch of support. On the ground though is what I really like. I feel like it has that feel of the Adidas Speed Ultra, where the kind of edges of the shoe, especially the lateral edge, around the ball of the foot where I land, it seems to catch the ground, but also flex and allow the foot to roll in on ground strike without any stiffness or interference. That's a feel that I really like, something I talk about with the Minoggio Pro, certainly in a bit of a faster shoe package there, but similar type of contouring over the ground as you touch down there. It's kind of a cool setup because you've got those 6mm lugs, and those are oriented along the edges of the shoe, and you've got a full 4 along the middle. So those 6mm lugs along the edge there do kind of catch the ground, also provide support. They don't let the shoe kind of contour too much. They add a bit of stability via the depth of the lug, which is pretty interesting. I'm surprised I don't see more trail shoe brands experimenting with variable lug depth. It seems to work well in this shoe. You normally see, say, 4mm lugs across the entire bottom of the foot. It could lead to, depending on the stiffness of the shoe, moldability of the foam, maybe a slappy or more flat feel. With those 6mm lugs, you get kind of the same coverage area underfoot, surface area on the ground, but the 6mm lugs, you know, it allows, or seemingly allows, based on my feel, the midsole to kind of flex up and roll around the edges, as opposed to maybe having more foam there where it would feel stiffer along those edges of the shoes. The outsole and platform underfoot is significantly pulled in under the middle of the shoe here. You have quite the hourglass shape, so to speak. So I think it's really good that the ground feel and contouring work so well under the forefoot, because you are narrow under the middle of the shoe, under the arch area. It's actually really similar in setup, at least the platform that is, to the Adidas Speed Ultra. Also having that full coverage mega grip underfoot, clearly beneficial over longer distances. If you watch my post 100K Q&A video, see some shots there of how my Pro 3s got really beat up in rocky terrain, like the kind of rocks I'm running in today. For a lot of this route, really chewed up the exposed Dream foam in that shoe. Cut some pretty big gouges there on the bottom. Let's head over to Stanley Lake. Gonna scooch through there as I came down last time in my Salomon Pro video, coming in the opposite direction of where I'm heading now. The ride of the shoe, very smooth on the ground. It has a bit of energy and reactivity from the TPU midsole. Again, the carbon fiber plate, it doesn't give that excessive reactive propulsion, you know, that kind of dynamic Puma deviate sort of feel. It's not exactly that here, but I can still feel the energy from the plate, and it just feels kind of smoother on the run. Propulsive effect as opposed to an aggressive bouncing off the ground type of feel. Compared to the Salomon Pro, that one has a firmer feel, more of a rigid rocker feel, I would say. Has the same kind of effect of rolling you along, but for sure less soft. Again, it's doing it more with the effect of the rocker, the roll of the rocker throughout your foot strike, as opposed to just a bit of smoother reactivity and propulsion in this shoe here. Not sure if one is necessarily better than the other. I kind of like the soft feel of this shoe though, I do feel the Salomon Pro probably has better foot security and lockdown. I feel really dialed into that shoe. Probably the upper itself, of course that rocker definitely pushes up under the arch, seats the heel pretty well. The front of that shoe, really nice, really dialed, really strapped in. So that shoe may give you a more secure fit in technical terrain, but you do have to manage the stiffer ride in that shoe. Stopped for a bit of a head dunk last time over here, but I'm on the early stages of my run here. Well, not that early, but don't need that just yet. I of course brought the matching FUGA Air 8.4 vest here. Really love this vest. Super lightweight. Got 2 soft flasks with me today. A couple of pH 90 gels, a couple of extra gels, bunch of drink mix in the back, Garmin InReach, a couple of camera items here which I'm holding, and I feel like I'm minimally loaded in this vest. There's a lot more space. I feel like I can load this up, certainly for a mandatory kit in one of those type of European races, and surely enough to range from those longer high capacity kind of storage that you need in those races, or even shorter distances, because the material is so light and just feels so strapped around my body. I love the soft flask orientation. It's high and tight, not crazy high, up against my clavicle here, kind of just in the right spot. One of the least amount of soft flask mounts in this vest than any others that I have. Heading up the zombie side now, same side I came down in the Salomon Pro video. Check that one out. I'm not doing as much scenic adventure filming today because I already did it in that video. So if you want more of a longer scenic video, check out that Salomon video. You'll see me running in the opposite direction. Okay, I'm gonna give my early take. 7 miles in, just short of an hour and a half. I think this could be an excellent 100-mile shoe choice. We'll see how I feel at the end of this run after 20 miles or so, but it has the carbon fiber plate, which I do like for the efficiency factor over 100 miles. And it has that soft responsiveness, not overly firm, yet not overly mushy, that I do like. It also feels protective enough where I really don't feel anything pushing through to the bottom of my foot. I feel I'm running through quite a lot of rocks, and I just feel kind of rounded pressure at times under my foot, but really nothing poking at all, not even one time. So the protective aspect is very good. Balance is also very good. Don't feel really back weighted. Again, the platform is narrow under the arch, very specifically, also a bit under the heel, and that leaves more volume of midsole, outsole, everything under the forefoot, which for me and my running style works really well, and also maintains the front to rear balance of the shoe, which I always find works better for me. So I'm gonna carry on up over this Mars-like section here before I get to the lake there, and I have an idea of maybe a spot or two for a scenic close-up on the upper here. We'll see. I think I'm gonna sneak on over that pass there to the lake, but I think I keep my eyes on the ground here. Okay, yeah, quite a big payoff suddenly coming over the top from this side as opposed to the other. Close up on the upper here. They call this dye mesh upper here. It's similar to a matrix style upper, Kevlar or Kevlar-esque materials here. You see the gator attachments here. This one got a little bit loose. I had the strike pot over here. I just took it off. So 2 here, 1 little loop here, and this I have offset. That's why it's a little wonky. But one thing about this shoe, I was talking about a lot of pros on the way up. I feel like it's not as shapely of an upper. It's kind of straight ahead. There's not much kind of pulling in around the midfoot area, and with this dual lacing setup, I just don't feel like I would like to have more of a squeeze here. I think the upper just doesn't, the shape of it doesn't accommodate it. You notice I have a little extra material over here. I do have a US 10, and the reason because I had the FUGA Do also in a 10, and I was getting pinky side rubbing, so I didn't want to go down to a 9.5. But in a 10, I do have a full thumbs width up front, so I'm not quite certain. My pinky's right here. If I went down to a 9.5, that might put my pinky over here. Might be a little tricky. I feel like it runs a little long for a 10. I would like to have this kind of width at my pinky and have it perhaps a little shorter. It just does feel a little bit long, but it's okay. A full thumbs width is not a bad thing to have over, say, a full 100-miler. A similar kind of upper or a similar shoe in flexible kind of feel is the S-Lab Genesis. That upper is more shapely. It's a lot more secure. I feel like this shoe is similar to that in some ways, in that it's more of a beefed up S-Lab Genesis with a plate, but it doesn't have as good of an upper. The reason I bring that up is because I did try to run that in US 9.5. It felt pretty spacious in a 100-miler last year, and I had to switch out shoes. Very rarely do I switch out shoes in a 100-miler, but my feet got swollen up because it wasn't as protective as this shoe and other shoes, and I was just getting jammed up at the front. So having a full thumbs width here is going to be beneficial. If I had this, even with foot swelling, there's plenty of space to accommodate it in this shoe. So certainly for a 100-miler, accounting for foot swelling, you're going to have volume and you're going to have length here. So I wouldn't worry about, unless I have issues with the shoe and wanted to change up for another reason. Fit-wise, I wouldn't have it. You can see the lacing here. I've got it it's kind of narrow here. I mean, I think you could probably go true to size, definitely if you have a narrower foot. If you have a wide or high volume foot, this is a great shoe for you because, like I said, I've got this kind of tight. If you have more volume in your foot, you're going to have a better fit than me in this shoe. But I find it pretty secure. The one thing we'll see when I go around this lake and head back down through there, I want to see how it feels at speed on the descent. The foothold is one aspect that is questionable when I compare it to some other shoes, but again, if I'm thinking about this for, say, 100 miles, I'm not necessarily too concerned overly concerned over that. The kind of efficiency, the comfort all around the upper here, again, like nothing, no pressure anywhere around this upper at any point. It feels so great. And even here, again, you don't have, with the Quicklace, no facility to lace lock, but I don't need it at all. No, the tongue is like thick and well padded. The cord here is kind of also thick. It's not some of those ones that are kind of thin. I think the Mount to Coast T1 there is thinner, and it can give you a little bit more bite than this one. I just feel no discomfort anywhere in this shoe, which is probably a bigger factor over, say, a very long distance race. Check out the outsole here. You can see what I'm talking about, it being pulled in over here. Kind of narrow here, but you have a solid chunk here. If you're a heel striker, definitely you can see that squishing down there, and you can see how the edges are 6 mil here. You can see what I'm talking about, how that can kind of grab as I'm landing here. I feel good contouring, and those lugs, being that they're deeper, still grab, but I could kind of roll into my foot strike. Obviously this is quite a bit uneven, but it's just very well contouring over rocks such as this. I'm kind of pressing into this point here, and I could feel it kind of, but not really in any kind. Certainly the plate comes together in the middle of the X is here. So if I land here, I'm really not feeling it. Right in the center of the ball of the foot, I think it's kind of missing the fork in the plate. So maybe I feel it, but it's still this TPU 32 under here, plus again, full Vibram, you know, full outsole here. It's very solid. This is really protective shoe. I don't think there's anything lacking for a long distance ultra here. So that's the trail winding around there. And then down that kind of rock slidey looking area. Punch through there. A little bit of a switch back up. And then I'm going to skirt the lake down through Barren Creek side over there. One thing about the Quicklace setup here is it's kind of hard to adjust on the fly. You know, it has that dual setup, kind of like the Mount to Coast T1, but with the Mount to Coast T1 being separate, you could kind of adjust the bottom independently, but then you have to tuck that thing in, which is not a big deal. Here it's in line, so if you want to kind of adjust, you know, if you want to make it tighter at the bottom, you're going to get extra here, and then you kind of have to pull it through the upper Quicklace thing, or if you want to loosen it here, you're going to have to give extra slack through the upper Quicklace tab, unless it's already loose up here. So you kind of have to adjust both of them. You can't really play with this independently, because as I have it now, you know, there's not much give to go either up. Maybe you could kind of give from one section to another, from the bottom to the top, or the top to the bottom, but it's a little bit tricky. It is nice to, you know, set it up how you want it before you go. It gives you some variability. Again, with these kind of lace setups, you could just change in regular laces if you want. Wait, whose birthday is it?
Me.
Happy birthday to you. Where are y'all from?
Seattle.
Seattle? Look at this. Idaho. And camping right down there.
Yes, we are.
What? What a super fun birthday.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, have a nice trip.
Yep, thank you.
I do think if there's one thing you do have to maybe give away, at least a little bit in this shoe, at least compared to a couple of those other shoes I've been talking about here, it is foothold and security, with that lesser contouring under the arch and kind of the non-shaped, you know, layout, or I guess shape you would call it, of the upper. Just feels like a little bit extra volume around the middle of the shoe. That's for my foot specifically. Again, if you have a higher volume foot, you surely feel more secure in this shoe. But you are giving away some of that super dialed foothold, certainly compared to the Salomon Pro, certainly compared to the S-Lab Genesis, even Tecton X2. Maybe not so much the X3 with that kind of lighter stripped down upper, you're really kind of just barely held on to that higher stack midsole there in the X3. So probably comparable in foothold with this shoe, but I feel like you are giving and taking. You're giving away some of that foothold, but you're taking a lot of extra comfort in this shoe. Certainly more protection than the S-Lab Genesis, softer feel underfoot than the Tecton X2, less rigid rocker and ride than the Salomon Pro. So between all these shoes I have been mentioning, also Vective Pro 3, that's just massive stack, hugely bouncy. You're definitely less bouncy, less reactive off the ground than that shoe. Overall, you're giving and taking with this shoe, and I don't know, so I guess it's up to you to determine which side or which aspects you value more. I am kind of leaning towards valuing that comfort, the upper comfort, the kind of mix of upper efficiency and softness, not quite full responsiveness of some of those really energetic carbon fiber shoes, but almost there, but with more ground feel, more stable than those for sure, and absolutely the most comfortable upper than any of these shoes I've been talking about. Look who it is. Franzi, all the way from Germany.
Yeah.
You made it up here. How's it going?
Good. It's so amazing here. So nice.
You passed through here already, right?
No, I came from here because there
Oh.
was a sign that there's a mudslide.
Oh, it's totally fine.
Okay.
So you came all the way up Barron Creek?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're going counterclockwise.
Yeah.
Okay, so you haven't seen the full lake yet.
No.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So great. You're in for it. I just came around through there.
From the ridge up there?
Yeah, you go around, skirt the lake over here, and then you come along that ridge and pass through over there.
Nice.
So
Cool.
how are you feeling about camping out? I'm interviewing
Good.
you here. Are you gonna stay?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so nice and nobody's here, I guess.
There's a couple spots like right over there.
Yeah.
And there's people camping around the far side of the
Okay.
lake. There's other spots over there,
Yeah.
so you could probably...
Yeah, I already meet a lot of people and
Yeah.
also 2 females.
Yeah, there's 3 ladies over there. They're gonna be in my video too.
Okay.
One of them celebrating their birthday.
Ah, nice.
So they were like super happy, and I think they're camping on the far side of the
Okay.
lake over there. So there's company. Everybody, they were like super fun
Yeah.
and funny. So
And I see no animal at all. Like I see
no what?
No animal.
Oh, okay.
I saw a
No
chipmunk.
cougars, chipmunks.
Yeah, a lot of them, but nothing else.
No cougars, bears,
Yeah.
anything like that.
I'm alive.
It's definitely noticeable that I have a slight bit of tippiness, and I notice it more around the middle of the shoe. That's pretty much where the center of the X of that carbon fiber plate is. So you essentially have a kind of flat plate there, right in the middle there. So of course, if you catch the wrong uneven part in that section of the shoe, you may be in for a quick turn, but that's really nothing different than any other rock plated or carbon plated type of trail shoe. This is actually quite a fun little rolling section here. I'm typically going the other way, so I'm typically going uphill here. So this is actually quite fun running this part down. Whoop. By the way, I do want to take this opportunity to share that I am partnering with The Feed for my fueling and hydration needs. I'm actually a longtime Feed subscriber myself, and I've been, of course, testing and reviewing lots of different fueling and hydration products for the channel, and I just felt like this was a great opportunity for me to kind of expand my reach in that department. So check out thefeed.com. I have a referral link down in the description. I'll put that on my website as well. That will give you 10% off every order there. So great for you guys. I wanted to share some type of discounts with you. I think it's just gonna give me more of an opportunity to test out new products maybe that they're promoting, and also really just pick and choose some different stuff that maybe I hear about, or maybe I just want to experiment with myself. So super excited to announce that. So as I'm rolling on this downhill here, sometimes steeper, sometimes not, I am actually enjoying the smoothness of the ride and also the enhanced softness compared to some of those other super shoes. Controllable softness, that is. Aside from perhaps the middle of the shoe where that carbon fiber plate does come together, and that's the part that does seem maybe a little unstable, or the most unstable when you're talking about the ground platform of this shoe. The heel is pretty nice. So like if you're a heel striker, a good amount of heel mashing that you can certainly do in this one. I would probably make sure it's maybe a little less rocky than some of these parts here, but smooth, more wide open heel mashing would certainly be great in this shoe. That I would say tippy middle section of the shoe is also highly protective, so that's great. You could see me kind of mowing over some of these rocks, really just completely stepping right over them, or right on top of them, I should say, and my feet feel fantastic. Another observation is that I'm quite surprised on the grip on kind of side hill uneven sections, slanting off either one direction or the other. I talked about maybe foothold and security not being as good in, say, steeper parts, but I think when it's side uneven, I really think the lugs, the 6mm lugs, 4mm lug combo really does a good job of grabbing at the ground. And you saw when I did that close-up how flexy it was along the edges of the shoe. So when I'm kind of running on a somewhat slanted trail at times here, I feel the shoe contouring on the ground there, and I don't feel like the maybe lesser foot security, I don't feel like that comes into play at all, because the grip and traction from the outsole is really hanging on much better than, say, other stiffer plated carbon or otherwise trail shoes. So final thoughts on the FUGA EX Pro here. I'm gonna give you my short hot take, followed by a little more details. If I were running a 100-mile race tomorrow, and maybe I didn't know exactly what the course was, certainly it would have to be a trail race, I would wear this shoe. I think this shoe stands up to any of the super shoes on the market right now from any of the established brands, period. Now, a few more details here. It's just a great shoe. I think it hits a sweet spot in terms of the level of cushioning and protection that you get. and comfort from the upper. I think those are the primary factors for a long distance ultra, 100 miles and such, maybe even beyond. Stability is something, you know, as long as it's not completely terrible, can be managed. Certainly in longer distances, you're going slower, you're being more careful, generally speaking. I think it's maybe not as secure as some of those shoes, but it's every bit as secure as others, and you get all those other advantages I've been talking about: cushion, efficiency, softness, response, full coverage outsole, durability, traction. Just, again, want to harp on this, comfort from the upper. It doesn't feel like they went to a super stripped down upper or went to kind of great uncomfortable lengths to hold your shoe onto a carbon fiber plated or super high reactive stack max, you know, super shoe. A lot of max, supers, all that kind of stuff going on there. But it's true. It's pretty striking how this feels like a comfort upper on top of the rest of the shoe being a legitimate super shoe. That is certainly a difference. The stability thing and foot security. Yes, I don't think it's 100% as good as some of the other ones, but you know, we're talking relative to trail super shoes here. You can judge for yourself. You can see me running on these trails. I'm still upright, about 18 miles in, pretty solid terrain. I think you can see that this shoe is handleable, okay? You can make this work, and certainly I'm only doing 20 miles today. Probably be being a little more careful if I was racing a 50 or a 100, and certainly if I wasn't carrying a camera. But as I talked about earlier, there's also some caveats to my kind of sort of foothold question, in that I'm pretty long in sizing here in my US 10. If you have, say, a narrow foot, definitely go true to size, and you'll surely have a more secure fit than I have here. If you have a higher volume foot, it's probably up in the air whether to go true to size, or I would go half size up, and I would take this full thumb's length up front. Everybody's foot's different though. You may hit it somewhere within a half size, or maybe your ultra sizing is a touch longer, your foot is a touch longer in length than mine, so you'll have a better fit. If you have a higher volume foot than me, you'll also again have certainly a more secure foothold, fill up the shoe a bit more. Those caveats are definitely, you know, you have to consider that I'm probably having a slightly large shoe here, but again, I like this kind of shoe accommodating for foot swelling and foot impact issues over longer distance ultras. Quick wet test check. Pretty good performance in the wet. There's really no materials here that are super absorptive. The water tends to work its way out of that dye mesh upper there. It just came out, so I'm squishing a little bit. But I've been going in and out of creeks all day and haven't noticed any issues there. The gaiters also very helpful when you go ankle deep or above in some of these crossings. Definitely keeps the small sand and pebbles from filtering into the shoe. So thank you again for tuning in. If you are Kailas curious, or perhaps you already have some Kailas shoes, let me know what your experience is down in the comments. I'm really surprised by this shoe. I think it's pretty awesome. I really, to be honest, did not like the FUGA dual BOA again. That dual BOA just didn't work. But this one just really blowing me away. The EX3 is also a solid training shoe. Probably have to put some more kind of easier training miles in that one and do a full wrap up on that. But this shoe has been great. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you want to hear about any comparisons, I'm of course happy to answer comments. Check out always forget that one, .humblerunning.com. Sign up for my newsletter. Gonna be a little delayed this time though, actually. Well, it has been delayed by the time you see this. I'm gonna probably do another back-to-back 20-miler tomorrow in another interesting shoe, so stay tuned for that. Once again, I'm also now fueling with the feed, so my 10% referral link is down in the description and on the website. I'll be bringing you more, let's say, interesting. I'm gonna try some wild stuff, not just the usual stuff in terms of fueling and hydration. So if you do want to support Humble Running and you're spending money on some carbs anyway, which we all are, just click through my referral link and maybe they'll toss me a few extra carbs here and there. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next adventure run. I got another one coming up tomorrow or whenever you're gonna see it. See you later.